Okay. Hello, guys. We are here today with Chris Strobl, a fellow entrepreneur of mine, very, very active in the no-code and AI scene. And I wanted to start out and talk to you, Chris, because I saw a tweet of you last week where you said, okay, look, I have this bunch of AI tools that are plugged into each other, and now I can create a full fundraising strategy, fundraising deck in under 2 hours. And I guess a lot of fellow entrepreneurs out there are really interested in learning how you can actually do that. And I wanted to start this discussion with a question. So, Chris, can you actually raise a seed round with ChatGPT?
Hey, hey Max, nice to see you today. I don't think that you can automatically raise a seed round yet, and I don't think it's very efficient, but it can supercharge you. So it feels like, to me, like if I would have like 5 McKinsey consultants and private equity dudes working for me 24/7, and they do whatever I want. So that's how it feels like to me.
When was the first time that you thought, hey, I wanted to try out all the AI tools for fundraising? And what was your motivation behind it?
Yeah, like, so I have some friends who want to work for my last, like, so I'm doing this side project or micro SaaS called Salesmachine, and there's friends who are like, hey, you need help, can I work for you, and so on. And I'm like, yeah, I can't pay you. And then they were like, can you raise money? And so I had like 3 conversations with VCs, and then all of them asked for like a deck, and I didn't have any motivation to do it, and I didn't have any time because I want to build product. And then came the moment, okay, maybe maybe ChatGPT can help me build this deck. And what was surprising, I think it's way better than I would have done it.
I feel the same for a lot of stuff that's coming out of ChatGPT. So I think the audience here is really, really interested in learning how to actually do it, because when you just put in any kind of prompts, there's like a huge difference in the quality of your output. So maybe you can walk us through the things that you did for yourself, and also in general, what makes a good prompt and how can I practice that for myself as someone who's using the new technology.
Yeah, super happy to help. And it's a very creative process, to be honest. Like, so if you can give me screen sharing, I can show you some stuff that I did. And because a lot of people, I saw this when DALL-E came out, a lot of people were like, yeah, paint me a house. And then the result was not that good. But when you actually were like asking, hey, I want a house in south of France, but please with a nice perspective from a drone, and can you do it in the style of Leonardo da Vinci, but please make it a modern photo. Like, so when you queried properly, you got totally different result. And this is what I learned very early on with DALL-E in a visual way. And so I wanted to do it also now with like decks or other stuff. Like, it's really about what context do you give the machine. And I believe it's like a new tool that you need to learn, and I'm learning at the moment. So I'm not an expert in this. Like, I'm learning every day, and I'm amazed by what to do. We can use the GPT-4, we can use the GPT 3.5. Let's start with 3.5 because it's faster. Especially now, otherwise we're waiting like half of the time for the results.
So first question, do I need like the paid model of ChatGPT to properly do all of this, or can I also do this with the free model?
You can try. I guess you can get very far with the 3.5, but the 4 has more context, and so it gives, especially if you query pretty complicated stuff, it gives a lot more. It gives better results because it has more context. So I think we start with the 3.5, and then we level up to the 4, just like for stuff.
Yeah, go for it, Chris.
Okay, so what I noticed is when people are like, hey, can you write me a deck for my startup? Like, this query doesn't really give you like a good outline, you know, like, so oh, what would be helpful, blah blah. So what I did is I asked a friend of mine who is like a hedge fund manager, and was like, hey, what's actually equity? How does this work? And he was like, you're thinking completely wrong. You need to start with a bank loan. And then I was like, what's a bank loan? He was like, think about having a bank loan for a hotel. Like, even if you have a software startup, like when you're raising money, why do you actually do it? And so you do it because you want to build a product, you want to market the product, and then you want to continuously get returns for it. And he was like, think of a hotel where you have to build the hotel, then you rent the rooms, and then over time you have to market, but you get a credit for the hotel, let's say $10 million, and then this is to build the hotel, market the hotel, and then you make a profit from it, and then you pay it back. Think about this. And then I was like, okay, that sounds a bit strange. So I started actually that I wanted to build a hotel in New York. So in New York City, it's for business people. I need a loan, and I have a meeting with my bank director in Berlin. So let's say I'm from Berlin. I want a hotel in New York. So, so I'm always thinking of the interface. So I don't think first of the deck. I think of the interface. And so the interface to get a bank hotel in New York would be a meeting in the bank in Berlin. So what would be a good agenda for the meeting? So I'm really trying to give this thing context first, like, and then you see, oh, begin by introducing yourself and your startup. Okay, wait, sorry. Like now it starts with the startup again. I don't want to start up. So refresh, new chat. So let's take, so, okay, introduce and your background, provide an overview of, and so now we think of building a hotel. And this is not, I want a business plan for my startup, but you see, it's very similar. So it's like market research. So what did you find about the demand for business hotels in New York? Like, what's your financial plan? How do you want to create a ROI? Because when you want money, what's your business plan? Like including your hotel's mission, target market, branding, and market strategies. And you see, it's very similar. The management team and collateral. So how do you secure the loan? So if you go to the bank and you say, I want 10 million for a hotel, they were like, yeah, okay, so what's the security of loan? Then you're like, well, you get the hotel, plus I put some money myself in. And risk and questions. And so now I'm like, oh, what would the business plan look, what would be the outline of the business plan B? I'm using sometimes those dashes and target audience, B2B, business travelers. Let me think. So target audience, B2B travelers going to management fairs, going to industry events in New York, pricing, boutique.
So this is also to give context to the model, and so the model adjusts on all the information that you put in here and like customizes or adjusts everything that it's thinking about already.
Yeah, leadership team, experience building business hotels in Dubai, London, what the fuck, Zurich. Okay. Operations plan. Okay. So see, it's like, it's all the stuff we have in the stacks, like problem, solution. I always think, like, after doing this, I was like, those are all shortcuts. They're shortcuts for the investor to get to the answer. But it's very similar because it's also a financial thing. And now, just like getting to one more, how could I, we have to construct this hotel actually and build it. We have a great architect, this and a design to be uniquely positioned in New York. So Sometimes I also just give it some context, not even a question. That's great. You might want to add the design and construction. So now you're closer to like, okay, how do we build this thing? Okay.
Okay, so now we have the kind of like outline for the business plan and some kind of like subheadings, things to talk about. And what's the next step?
Now
How
we
do we
have,
fill that with live?
now I would not do this. Now I would do the following. So give me a quick breakdown of the financing of this thing. Let's say give me a quick breakdown of financing. What will be the items of what will be milestones of the bank loan? Because we're always like in venture, we're like doing milestone-based financing, equity financing, debt okay, loan approval, disbursement based on my okay. Here we go. After completion, okay. So now I'm taking this disbursement of okay. Give me a timeline 2020. Give me a timeline example, let's say 2023 to 2025, because we always, let's make, yeah. Pre-repair. Funds after loan initiates permits slicing site preparation, begins construction, including a foundation framing, continue construction. Okay, year 2, begin finishing work, including interior design, continue finishing, complete conduct soft opening, that's cool. Fine-tune hotel operation, just mark, okay, good. Okay, so now we have something like this. Now I'm like, great. For the hotel project, I think it's pretty similar for a software business. Because you have to first build the product, research and development, then start an initial, what do they call, initial soft launch, and then continuously scale operations, and then scale operation. Let's imagine I would do, and here now I give you context, I would do a software, like what, like I'm doing just Salesmachine because I know the query. So I would do a software called Salesmachine. It's a tool to create interactive product demos. How could the financing look like? So let's try. Be similar in some ways as you would need to invest. Now here we go.
That's interesting. But like, so it's crazy that you have to have the context like so far off first to finally end up with a good structure for a software business, isn't it?
I don't know. Like, I think it's awesome because now you start really from first principles and then you go down to what makes it unique. And so I'm like, okay, this is great. Now I'm like, okay, imagine the seed funding stage. What would a meeting look like with an investor? How could the agenda look like? What is this machine? And then you start again with the meeting, and then you would go, okay, introduction problem. Here you see now we're going here into the stuff.
Yeah, and actually you already see like the regular structure of a pitch deck popping up there that any like investor out there would expect.
And now I'm like, just like to give you some context, I'm like, what's similar regarding the financing? What is similar with the hotel and software business? What's the difference? Let's see. Similarities. Funding rounds. Differences. Investment amount. Here you see.
Yeah.
This is something we never talk about when we do fundraising, that it's actually capital light business. It's actually an awesome thing to invest in software because it's so so much cheaper.
Yeah.
Revenue model. Okay, it's based on occupancy rates, and while the revenue for software is based on subscription fees. Okay, so it's actually recurring revenue versus occupancy. Risk profile. The hotel is typically higher because the physical effort. So do you see, like, this is like how I really love this tool, because it's so much fun. Because if I would, in my daily life, you know, like, you don't have time for this. Like, imagine you would be like, hey, let's hire some student or like researcher to give me they would never do it. So like, I noticed that, so like, this is what I learned so far. I'm having so many shortcuts, and there are industry practices, and there are all limitations because we actually don't have time to think about this. Because of course I came late to this industry because it was invented like 40 years ago. And so, is it really that different? Like, is it really that different than anything else on this planet? And when we think of the deck, we're like, okay, let's be very tactical, but at least I never understood, why do we even have this structure? Like, what's actually the goal? And so I want to do one more thing. Like, isn't a software business way more risky because of the technical risk? Okay, so it's a range of factors. Okay, so what's I heard some smart investors say that the early stage phases of financing a technology software company is to address the technical risk. So the more knowledge, of course, you have about all of this, the better it gets. And then why do I ask all of this? Then I'm like, see, okay, and then how would I add this? Okay, let's say, how would I add this to the pitch deck for the seed investor? Okay.
So in the end, a lot of the things that come out of ChatGPT in terms of your pitch deck, business plan, and fundraising, it matters still a lot what you put in there, right? So if you are talking about technical risk and everything, so if I wouldn't know about all of this, I couldn't like put it into the input field, right?
Yeah, this is I guess it's directionally correct. Like, so there is this idea currently, and that's so fascinating. So let's say it's just a cheat sheet, then it wouldn't matter so much. But if you really think, okay, this is a new tool that gives me new superpowers, then the next question is, what do I need? And so in my case, I first went really with problems that I had and tried to have some experience with, you know, and I noticed the more I know about it, the better. But then I was like, okay, let's say you are a founder who just started out and doesn't know. Like, there's so much resources out there right now. So it's online courses, it's books, it's stuff. Imagine you're doing the fundraising process, and traditionally you would be like, oh, I look at a blog post, now I do a deck and I just start. But why not just start like say, okay, I'm taking 2 days to get up to speed in this topic. So I'm doing the online course, I buy the 5 books that matter, and I just scroll through. And I can also ask OpenAI, give me a summary of this book. So when it's like industry standard books, they know it, like Crossing the Chasm or so, it's in this, you can ask like, what's the 5 bullet points? And then after you have the core knowledge, I'm certain there will be also tutorials how to prompt, but let's say you have this knowledge, then spending next 1 day OpenAI pitch deck, and then going, I guess you're like 5 or 10 times better than if you would just do traditionally the journey.
Yeah. So from the results that we have seen in the prompts now, like how do you go from there to actually creating the content for Salesmachine and also like creating a proper deck?
Yeah, like I'm happy to go, like, let me think about it. Let's give it some context into it. Okay. Okay, great. So let's do a deck for. Sometimes I do this, okay, great, just to give it a point, like, okay, this is now fine, and I hope that it validates a little bit, okay, this is now fine, but I don't know, but it's just it's so I'm doing like a one-liner what it is. If you don't know exactly what it is, like use OpenAI to get to this.
To find it out, yeah.
The target audience are software companies. Pricing is bottoms up, SaaS, free, and then 30 per month. Team plans for enterprise. Okay. What would be a good outline? This deck considering all the above inputs, e.g. hotel financing. Okay, let's see. This is 3.5 right now. Like that's not the 4. So just, okay, you see? And now, so I already get basically the core structure of a deck. And
that's cool.
And then I'm like, so I'm reading through all of this, and so I'm like, okay, can you do like a slide as well? Okay. Okay. So I have my, and now, like, let's say I take the problem. Okay. So can you give me the okay. So I want to create a deck in PowerPoint. So can you give me the bullet points for slide 1, problem statement? Then I read through and I'm like, yeah, let's just do it. So problem statement. So it does like five bullet points.
Nice.
This is, can you make it a slide? So it's even like, see, slide titles, software companies struggle to create bullet points. Now I'm like, slide, can you make an action title for this slide? Sorry, can you make for the slide title actional title similar like McKinsey presentations? So I'm just like pushing stuff into it. Action-oriented title. Transform your product demos with Salesmachine. Well, but this is not a problem statement. Can you make it more dramatic?
So you are actually trying like to go through every single slide and iterate till you have like a version where you say, okay, this really does the
So now
job.
it's more sense of urgency. So now I'm like, why is it more dramatic? Okay, but honestly, this is all about business. I want to show that this is freaking expensive, urgent business problem. High cost of boring product demos. So you see, like, it's really like this. And then what I did, just like as an example now, what I do is like, I basically, I want to show you this because really what, how to do next. Like, so I did basically go into Google Slides. I just took a random template that's really boring and I copy paste. So I see a lot of people right now, they're like, oh, but I want OpenAI to final deck. And so with copy and paste and with using all of those tools and bundling them together, you get a super fast result. So the moment you copy this, put it here, problem, like this is it, you know? And so what I did then in the next step is like, I basically go through all of those slides, I copy paste them, and then the next question is, okay, from now this very ugly deck, how do I get to a nice deck? And that was like the point where it got really interesting, because I was like, so let's say I have this deck, so I want a great design for this deck. Can you help me write a job description for a freelance designer on Upwork to polish the deck?
So there's no like solution on the market right now that makes it really, really easy to just plug in your ugly deck and then create a nice looking one out of it.
Yeah, and I think there's like where people's imagination, because they don't understand how those models correctly work, they're like, oh, I just put in a query and I get the final result. And like the real power, at least in the next years, I think, because those models are capable, but the real power is when you actually leverage it correctly. And so like having the pipelines to be like, okay, look, now we have a designer for the deck, and see, Salesmachine pitch. The deck is currently a PowerPoint format and includes, we're looking for this. And I'm like, what would be good interview questions for this designer? So the moment, like I'm constantly thinking of how can I be just 10x better, like just every time.
So basically, it's like having a group of mentors or something that are standing, or advisors that are standing behind you, and you are just always trying to think about, oh, okay, maybe for this like interview questions, I could like in the real world till now ask this very experienced founder or HR guy, and now instead of doing that, you can just type it in and get like the same quality out of it.
Yeah, and you see, like it gives me those questions, like tell me about your experience with Stan, and then I'm like, how would a top 1% candidate answer the question number one? Thank.
That's interesting.
Like, summarize it. This is too long.
So looking high level at it, it can save you like hundreds and hundreds of hours doing all of these things, because
and cost. Like, because sorry, like I interrupted you. Like,
no, it's fine. Go for it.
No, I just want to say, like, it's hundreds of hours and cost, because like what was crazy is like, so we got this, and I know like designing a pitch deck, asking somebody to do it from story to design is like 2 to 3 weeks and costs you like 5 to 10 grand. And I had this done in like 1 hour, and I got this back in like 24 hours for $250 on Upwork. Nice. And I know like, and then I shared it with people, and they were like, And I was first like, oh, this is way too simple. Like, this is too high level. And then you're like, wait, everyone would actually understand this. And it would look like this. And what was crazy, I just want to show you one more thing. Then yesterday, I was like doing this other pipeline. And I was like, can I use Salesmachine to actually apply to a pharma biotech accelerator? And so I asked the thing, can you rewrite the story for the biotech industry? So I'm first like, it has nothing to do with biotech, it's for SaaS, but then the entire thing actually allowed me to rewrite it for biotech, to rewrite it for crypto, to rewrite it for this. And you could see what actually a great salesperson can do. Because I'm not like a salesperson per se. So I never understand how can they sell to pharma, to the same product, to pharma, to finance, to fintech, to insurance, to automotive, and to startups. And then you saw, okay, actually the moment you pivot a little bit the positioning, it actually makes sense. And so going from like this to one deck to then having decks for all personalized investors. So the one investor cares about network effect, the next one cares really much about the architecture and technology. I just noticed, okay, I'm operating currently at a totally underperforming way. Because it should be like this. You should research the investors' podcasts and blogs. You should know exactly what they care about. And then your deck should be exactly customized for them. And if they finance you, of course, you would also go in this direction more than if let's say, if someone for network effects finance you, you might care more about referral. But if someone who really cares about engineering, you would focus a little bit more on this. And I think this is something where I noticed the tool just fundamentally changes how I work. And I'm constantly learning. So I'm not like, this is like early.
Nice. That sounds amazing. And is there like, so what would be your suggestions for the people out there? So how can they try it for themselves?
Yeah, I think like it's basically just getting started. Like there's no paywall. There's just signing up, trying stuff, querying, asking questions, getting feedback.
Cool. Perfect. So I think maybe this was a good start for the first episode here. Let's see what the people out there think about it. Write in the comments below if you want to have like more sessions with Chris and me on how to use ChatGPT and OpenAI in fundraising. And yeah, wishing you all a great rest of the week.